round of applause for this woman. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Can I do a shout out?
Yeah,
all the
please.
parents
Shout out
in the
whoever
house.
you want.
Shout out to all the parents who have babysitters and made it work to be here.
Amen. So this is the first time I'm interviewing you, so I'm very excited. We've had conversations on the side, but
Right.
I've read all the fancy magazine profiles, as I'm sure many people in this audience have. I've listened to the podcast, but I sort of want to hear in your own words. Who is Arlan Hamilton?
This is a Beaches moment. Does anybody know? Nobody watches Beaches. Too old for you. Who is Arlan Hamilton? Well, I identify right now as the founder of Backstage Capital because it's so important to me, and it's such a part of my DNA right now. And I guess I'm someone who constantly finds ways to build my own space in places where I don't see myself.
So I want to talk about how you built your own space and how you got here, because it is certainly the atypical Silicon Valley story. I mean, you had no college degree, which isn't that atypical of Silicon Valley, but no network, no money. You were on food stamps?
Correct.
Like, you really were on food stamps?
Oh, yeah. People are like, how homeless were you, and were you really on food stamps, or is that just a good title? Really on food stamps, and sometimes wasn't on food stamps, and that was the problem. Like, sometimes couldn't get food stamps.
And you were investing in Texas, in tech.
Yeah, I started off by working with companies out of Texas, and felt like I was on an island, but I had no money at that point.
So how did you fall into this? Like, how did you find the tech industry?
So I had kind of gotten my way into working on music and music production, live music production. And I was seeing some of the people that I looked up to and also found entertaining were making investments in Silicon Valley. And I knew as a customer what Airbnb was. I knew as a customer what Warby Parker would have been. But I didn't realize that there were like the teams behind it. And so once I understood, okay, Ashton Kutcher is going to this magical land called Silicon Valley because he wants to invest in this company, and that's why he has a sticker on his laptop. And I was like, wait a minute, those guys are me. And at the time it was guys, those guys are me. I'm just in a different package. I've always felt like this hacker entrepreneur type, and I just didn't know that this place existed. So once I understood that, I wanted to be part of it. And when I tried to be part of it, there was not much there for me, welcoming me. And that's when I started seeing, oh wow, like there are a lot of us who are like me and like people that I admire, who have a lot to offer and are, in some cases brilliant, but they just don't have that same access to these resources that these other guys do. And I heard little stories like the Airbnb guys, who I really like, where they had like the cereal boxes that they would sell to make the money to keep them going. And people in Silicon Valley were just like, that's the most brilliant thing I've ever heard in my life. And I'm
Obama owes.
For me, I thought it was brilliant, but I also thought that's a Tuesday for me. That's us figuring it out, right? So I said, if that is powerful to this group of people who has a lot of money and resources, I can't imagine what they'll think when they see us coming.
So you bought a one-way ticket to San Francisco.
I crowdfunded a one-way ticket to San Francisco. I mean, I'm telling you, when I say broke, I mean broke.
And you slept on the floor. She slept on the floor of the airport.
Yeah, I did that. Some people say, oh, she couch surfed. I'm like, that sounds more fun than what I did. I was in my mid-30s, and
I hope you were in Terminal 2.
Yeah, I was there last night. I was like, I left. I was in front of the Frontiers line, kiosk, and I was there. I found myself there again because I was like, oh my God, am I back? It was really trippy. But yeah, it wasn't fun, and it wasn't glamorous. I'm sure it'll make a great Lifetime movie one day.
So how did you actually get your first break? I mean, were you just emailing everyone you possibly could?
Yeah, so I emailed a ton of people, and I got better and better at that. I started out really giving people my life story and not being concise as I could. But I learned from it, and I tried to learn from it, and I learned everything I could on my own, which is what I really recommend to anyone here who's trying to start something. Just have so much information that you have. You own that. You own your information, and so that was really important to do. And so over time, I got my way there, and I came here and I went to a course that 500 Startups was putting on, so I could at least like be around other people. I then just met everybody I could, and for months people, they didn't know that I didn't have a place to live. They just knew I was trying to raise this fund that was kind of weird, that sounded more like a philanthropic venture than anything.
What was the thesis at that point? Like, what was the pitch?
It's the same. It was that I am a gay black woman who has access to founders who look different than the status quo and who are doing amazing things at a discount. And if they have done so much with so little, what happens when you give them more? And don't you want to be at the forefront of that? Because things will change in the next 5 years. This was 2013 on. The next 5 years, things will change. And people would pat me on the head or ignore me, and I remember distinctly going to conferences and getting my way in, and people would just ignore me when I tried to talk to them about it. And some of those same people chase me down now. Chase me down to, can I pick your brain? Can I have coffee with you? And I'm like, yeah, you had a fund, and you wouldn't listen to me before, and now all of a sudden you do. So, I mean, it's important that you kind of give people that dignity of at least taking them seriously.
So how did you get your first check?
The very first check was from Susan Kimberlin. She is an angel investor.
And a woman.
And a woman. I was going to say, I think it's important to point that out because I think it was going to be a woman that gave me the first check. It took a few months of education on my part to explain to her what I wanted to do and also just venture in general, because that was a whole barrier. And once she got it, she was like, you know what? Why not? Let's try and let's see what you can do. I guess for her, the worst thing that could happen is that she lost that certain amount of money and it wouldn't go negative, right? So she gave me that first chance, and that's all I had been waiting for years. I had been working towards that moment, so I was ready. And as soon as she gave me that first check,
$25,000.
It was $25,000. It was the same size as most of the investments that I was making or would be making. And as soon as she did that, it was more than anything else, someone calls it a confidence check. That's what it was for me. Because I was like, oh, it's on now. It's on. You can't stop me now.
It's on. I mean, you since you got money from Mark Andreessen, Stuart Butterfield, Aaron Levy, and you have...
I let them into the round.
Yeah, you let them in. How much money have you invested now?
So we've invested around $5 million,
but you got a $36 million
fund.
Yeah,
we're pledging a $36 million fund into Black women, $1 million at a time, and so.
Yes.
Yes. It's really important to understand that first the first million was $25,000 at a time, where it took dozens of no's to get one yes at a time. It's really important to remember that. I never want to forget that myself, because we've invested in 100 companies now, and to me that's the important part. And there's billions of dollars being spent year. I think 2018 was $100 billion in venture. And we're talking about 5 million, 36 million. It's the tip of the iceberg. There needs to be much, much, much more. I think I proposed that 10% more of funding could go into underrepresented founders in any given year, and that would change everything.
And you're taking this global. You are launching an accelerator program in London and LA. Yeah,
LA, Detroit, Philadelphia. Detroit's here. Philadelphia and London, and it launches March. It's our team. I take very little credit for it because it's a team of 30 people that are amazing, and we're taking it to the cities that we really believe in.
So what's the strategy? I mean, how do you choose which Black female founder to invest in, or
just
which
in general?
person of color? Right.
Yeah, I mean, that's evolved over time. I'm doing the same thing that most investors do, is figure out my thesis, figure out what's working, what's not. I mean, at the earliest stages, we're talking pre-seed and seed. Anyone who tells you they have a real strategy is probably lying to you or themselves. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, there's no one who can predict. But what we
So what is it? Is it like a gut feeling? Is it the people?
Yeah, so for the first 60 or so investments, it was gut. It was not letting go of sort of that naivete that I had. I thought that was really important because it was magical. Everybody else had sort of the same thoughts, and if I kind of walked into the room a little bit rough around the edges, then I thought, and I still think, that that is my edge. And so it was it's pattern matching for grit. It's seeing someone that reminds me of myself. And I haven't said this in a long time, I'll bring it back out. It's being hungry and not thirsty. It's someone who you know they'll do almost anything for their company, but they also can take constructive criticism. They also can learn and teach. And someone who's a domain expert or who has equivalent expertise, right? I'm not looking for someone who necessarily looks great on paper, because there's plenty of funds for that. I get offered a lot of deals that are like, mainstream, great returns, and this is sort of easy for you, but it doesn't fit our thesis. It's I'm looking for people who are going to who are underestimated, and that's something really powerful in that. If you have an entire portfolio of people who are underestimated every day of their lives, they have a lot to prove.
Now, you're in like chapter 1, right?
Yeah.
Or like the
I guess
prologue.
I'm chapter 2.
Okay,
yeah.
I'm
chapter 2.
So what do you say to
I
people
can
who
pay my
say,
rent now.
how do we know if you're a good investor? The story remains to be written.
Yeah, that's a very fair thing. I think I did a letter to my LPs recently, our investors, and I said, the novelty will wear off really soon. I'm very aware of that. And now it's about showing and proving. And it's about returns. I think it's also about being very realistic and putting us on the same, treating us the same as you would treat someone else. Because I have a lot of white male counterparts who do not get asked in year 1, how are my returns? You know what I'm saying? I have a lot of them that don't get asked that question, but I get asked that question. Oh, have you had any exits? And I'm like, we invest in pre-seed half a year ago. No, we don't have exits right now. But I do believe, and also know that this year in 2020, just based on our portfolio and the conversations I've had and the ways we've been able to help, I know that we will have exits, and that'll be really interesting for some people. And then there will be, we're in it. We're in it for the long haul. We're not tourists. So we don't encourage our founders to do some sort of flip just to make us look good. That's not interesting to us. I'm here, I'm gonna be here in 7 years for you if you're a founder of ours. It's just the way I feel about it. And so I think how you start measuring us over the next 2 years, and how we've been measuring so far internally, is what kind of revenue is being generated at these companies, what kind of growth is happening and compared to the right comparison of how many resources you have.
So what do you say to the criticism that you're helping some people who might not care as much as they should about diversity check a box?
Oh, you mean like our investors are people who kind of take the picture with us? So the investors are not people who take the picture. I turn away people who take the picture, right? Who are like, hey, will you come to our luncheon? And I'm looking at the list, and I'm like, oh, you're gonna sit me right in the middle, aren't you? Yeah, okay. For some people, I think, people who invest, you have to understand, I have to be careful because I really don't mind what people think of me, but I do have an entire group of people that I'm speaking for sometimes, and I care about their well-being and their livelihood. I believe that if you are an investor in us, you probably have invested for one of 3 reasons. Maybe you invested because you think it's the right thing to do. You think it's like a heartwarming thing. Another reason is more on the Mark Andreessen side, is like he's so rich, he'll never this is like one ski lift ticket for him. It's like, I lost a ski lift ticket. I can't do that. But I think he's just super curious about what I do. And I think that still drives him every day. I haven't talked to him about it, but I would imagine someone like that, it drives them to see, what is this lady about? What's going to happen there? And then there are people who just look at it and say, you're just right. Like, this is a no-brainer. I don't care about the warm and fuzzies. You're right. Like, no one's looking at this group of people. It stands to reason that a few of them are going to outshine the rest, and they're going to outperform. And let's do the same thing we do with most things in the same boat. So anyone who I've sort of missed in my radar or my filter, because I'm usually good at it, but anyone I've missed who's just doing this, being part of this to look good, they won't last long in our orbit. They won't last long because maybe they got through already, but real recognizes real. And that won't last long. And I'm telling you, there are many, many people I have turned away and said, no, in the deepest, darkest times.
So let's talk about that, because there's been a recent Twitter kerfuffle.
Twitter,
of you
what is that?
May have seen this. We could do a whole session on Arlan's tweets. I actually thought about picking 10 tweets. You've had a situation develop with Paul Graham that actually didn't start. You were brought into it by fans, actually. And I'm just curious what you think happened there from your perspective.
Well, I mean, I guess the short version is that I was tagged. A woman named Lisa is awesome. She's interviewed me before in Albuquerque. Paul Graham, runs YC, and he said that some of the best investors that he knows are operators, which is a fair assessment.
He said, all the best investors I know are more like founders than investors. Fred Wilson, Mike Moritz, Mark Andreessen, Ben Horowitz, Keith Rabois. What do I mean by like founders? Informal, pragmatic, genuinely interested in products and not just in money.
Fair enough. I mean, that's a tweet, right? That's his own little tweet. Lisa noticed that it was not very diverse. And I was at home, I was like watching the pre-Grammy, whatever, had my string cheese and I was chilling. And I just see a tag and it said, hey, that's an impressive list. Also, I mean, it was really innocent the way she said it. She's like, also, maybe you can hang out with Arlan sometimes, because then you'll broaden your horizons a little bit.
Your list could expand beyond some admittedly impressive men, she said.
Totally legit. And so his response, before I even saw that, his response was, or. So now there's an or, because there's only room for one. He said, or I could just go next door or into the next room, because my wife is in there, and she's an investor. Jessica, and she's an investor. And I know what he was thinking, I'm sure, that he thought, whatever. And so I took a screenshot of that, and I said, this is the problem. That, first of all, there's an or, and that his response to this is, no, I'm good. I got my wife here. She checks all those marks. Forget this. It wasn't that I wanted to be on his list. I don't need to be on Paul Graham's list. It wasn't that I was trying myself to be on the list. It was just a really interesting way that he responded to Lisa. So then he responded to that, which he has never, and I don't think ever in the 5 years that I've known about him, or plus, I don't think he's ever acknowledged my existence. He responded, she's not just my wife. She is an investor in her own right, and tweets like yours devalue her, something to that effect. And you're talking to a person who spends every waking moment of their life trying to better myself and to bring others with me who are underrepresented. And you've just called me sexist in front of people, sometimes, out loud. So that is when it all hell broke loose, because my people or no, not today, not on my watch. And then it became this thing, and I actually, I got about 700 or 800 new followers in about 16 hours, but I also had to block 70 to 80 people
Yeah.
because I was called racist. I was called an asshole by more than one person. I was called really bad, racist names, misogynistic names, all sorts of lovely things. And the thing is, like, I'd have no problem getting into it with Paul or anyone else. I think we know that. But you can't just have I can't just disagree with you.
Well,
Now
and at this point, it's not just Paul, you're Paul's fans, Paul's people.
It's like Paul's people, his people are going for the jugular, and he's able to be kind of insulated from this. And he doesn't, I don't know, because I don't know him that well, but I don't think he realizes what he just did to my life this weekend.
So tell us about the fallout. You tweeted, I haven't had to block this many men telling me how stupid I am since October 2016, when I had Peter Thiel's fanboys telling me how stupid and fat I am. She really doesn't mince words.
Yeah, it takes a toll on my mental health. I feel very strong. And I'm pretty honest, so like if I say it online, like I'm okay, I did a video to let everybody know I was okay. I'm not lying, I'm not putting up a facade. But also, I have a lot of other stress, and there's a lot on my shoulders, and this was, it wasn't him, it wasn't the fact that he wasn't disagreeing, that's one person in life. It was the fact that, I don't want to say too much because I think it emboldens others, but let's just say, he put me in a physical danger that is beyond just disagreeing with someone.
You felt in physical danger?
Oh, yeah. But I don't want to talk too much about it because then it just adds and adds and adds to it.
So is there anything that you want to say to Paul right now, or Jessica, who is a fabulous investor?
I love Jessica. Like, Jessica's cool. I said it in a video. She's my homegirl. Like, let's go kick it. I don't know if I want to say anything to Paul. I think, well...
Or the people.
I don't know. So, I mean, all these guys in their underwear in basements, I just don't know if I have enough. I don't know if we all relate to them as well. But I would say Paul, like someone said online, it's okay to be wrong. I'm wrong all the time. It's okay to be wrong. It's okay to ask questions. And you are rich beyond anyone's wildest dreams. You've made it. You've already won. So, take a day out and broaden your horizons a little bit. And I'm not going to try to fix him or make him a better person, but please know that it's not, you have a lot of pull and you have a lot of power and your words carry weight. So when you get into it with someone, especially someone like me who I'm looking at my bank account every day just to make sure I'm okay still, like think about that for a second. You put my livelihood at risk by your flippancy and your complacency. So I would just say, maybe what you could do today is just tweet out, hey, Arlan and I disagree on something, but my followers don't have to be jerks to her. Mm-hmm. Leave her alone. That would be really cool.
So, unfortunately, what you're doing does represent, in some ways, some people might perceive it as a threat to, the established ways of doing business here in Silicon Valley. So the title of this discussion is Breaking Rules While Breaking Ground. What's your advice to the people in the audience? What rules can they break while also breaking ground and not breaking everything?
Yeah, don't break everything. We need that, that's why we can't have nice things. Don't break it all. I just think that being yourself and being authentic, and I say this a lot, but I think that being yourself, being true to yourself, even through all of this, like I'm not putting up some, fake, I could lose money here. I could lose money for other people. I could lose money for myself. But I think it's going to work out because I'm being myself. So that is like your biggest asset is being yourself. It's also your biggest fist in the air is being yourself because you have to live with yourself. And all this stuff is going to come and go. Like in 3 years, there's going to be something that everybody flocks to that's not venture capital. It's just going to change like this. And so if you're out there selling your soul for some VC money, what have you done that for? So, nothing's worth a check. Nothing is worth a check. Like, we're going to be okay. I was sitting up there a couple of years, like 3 years ago, I was sitting up there. Couldn't get a seat.
Hey, you people in the balcony, hello.
Yeah, I was sitting up there, and I was watching everyone talk, and I again went in 4 years from not knowing when I was going to eat next to being up here, and I've been the same person I was 4 years ago, and I somehow managed to get this far.
All right, I'm gonna pull in Ellen. Can
Okay.
we take a picture?
Oh, please.
Can we memorialize the moment that you went from there to here?
Yeah.
All right, I want you all to be in this picture. So everybody stand up.
All right. Emily says
Or
stand
lean,
up, so we do it.
lean in, okay?
We do it. Cop that Brotopia.
It's just like the Oscars.
Get that Brotopia book if you haven't yet.
All right. Here, let's try to, okay. All right, 1, 2, 3. Woo woo, okay. Thank you so much. Arlan
you.
Hamilton, everyone.